Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another this and that video. I'm going to get right to it. So what I have here, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff. The first thing I wanted to start off with was the almond flour. So I just recently made some almond flour. If you saw my last this and that video, I made a big batch of almond milk. And then what I did was I took the pulp, I dehydrated it on my wood stove on top of a cookie sheet, as you can see in the photo here. And then once it's fully dry, what you'll find if you've never made a flour out of your own nut flour, what you'll find is it tends to be a little clumpy and even kind of hard. And so then what I like to do is put it in my coffee grinder. It's actually, I have two coffee grinders, one that's dedicated only to coffee beans and the rest for everything else. And so the everything else one is what I put that in and just process it for a few seconds, and it turns it from being more clumpy, as you can see in the one picture there, to a finer flour. Now it's still not going to be super fine that way, but it does work really well for using in muffins, cookies, crackers, homemade crackers, and all kinds of things like that. So if you are gluten-free, and also if you're vegan, if you happen to be both, you can get your nuts, whether it be almonds, pecans, or whatever it is you like, or blend, make your nut milk so that you'll have your dairy-free dairy, and then you can then use the pulp and turn it into a flour for making gluten-free goodies. But we're not gluten-free, so what I tend to do is blend it in with other types of flours that you know, the wheat flours that we use that I grind in my grain mill. You know, I buy them in bulk, and then I soak them, and then I grind them, and after I dry them, and then I can mix this in there. As anyone knows who's ever worked with such flours, they are very different than working with your regular wheat flour. So you may have to experiment for a while to find the right ratios, and if you're totally gluten-free, then definitely more experimentation. If you've been at it for a while, you may understand better the ratio of eggs and liquid. Like coconut flour, for instance, has a tendency to really soak up the liquids that you add to it. And so you have to start with small amounts of coconut flour. I have found, like with the almond flour and other types of gluten-free type flours, I don't have as much of an issue with it really soaking all that up. But just keep all that in mind. If you're wanting to experiment and come up with your own recipes, start small. And I always say, start with things like muffins, cookies, and pancakes, because those are the easiest things to work with when you start doing gluten-free stuff. Now, I'm not experienced at going totally gluten-free. I have come up with my own recipes as far as like a gluten-free graham cracker, which obviously I'm not using graham flour. I'm using like a rice flour. You can use buckwheat flour. You can use whatever your favorite gluten-free flours or blends are, and they hold together pretty well for, you know, for what they are. But because we're not gluten-free, I don't do a whole lot of experimenting with it. I just do once in a while to consider, you know, the people out there that follow us, but also, you know, people that we may have. We don't have very many. I don't think we have any family that's gluten-free, and we've had a friend that was, and that's what made me start thinking about, you know, doing that kind of stuff. So anyway, you can make your own. I'm not sure, I might have a video just on how I do this, but I do have several videos on making nut milk, you know, coconut milk, almond milk, pecan cashew milk, hemp seed milk. And what I will say is the pecan cashew milk is my favorite, because that one I like to use the pulp for making a vegan cheese with, or a dairy-free cheese. It's really good. And if you'd like to see my recipe on how I make the cheese, I'll go ahead and link to that right up here, since in the last video I linked to the pecan cashew milk. But you can find those links easy enough doing a search on my channel. Okay, moving on to this. Some may recognize this. Now, at the time that I'm shooting this video, it is right at the end of March. It is March 28th. It happens to be my oldest son's birthday. Just turned 27. And anyway, the last couple of days I've been harvesting a lot of stinging nettle. It's just really started exploding. And so I'll be doing a video talking more about stinging nettle. I did one a couple years ago, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in a focusing on a few other different things and the benefits of nettle, how you can use it, and how I've been using it. So I have some on the dehydrator right now. It's 7 trays high, and then here's some more that I'll be cooking up for dinner tonight. And anyway, you can check out that video. It'll probably be out very shortly after this one because I'm going to shoot it today. So within the next 2 or 3 days, you should be able to see the sting of nettle video where I talk about the benefits. Because one thing I always forget about nettle, when I mention herbs, you know, people talk about, you know, what are your top herbs? Well, nettle would be one of them, but I always forget to include them in my herbs because I think of them more as a vegetable than I do an herb. But they do have very many great qualities, even medicinally, that you can use them for. And so again, watch for that video. I'll be talking more about that. Now right here, I have to make some more lip balm because this is my last cinnamon vanilla. I stuck it in there so I remember which one it is I need to make next, so I can get that up on my store. A very popular flavor on the store there. And then cinnamon sugar. I need to make some more cinnamon sugar. So a couple years ago, I made a video on how to make your own cinnamon sugar. And I felt kind of silly doing it, but it was one of those things where I had to do it, so I figured I'd shoot a quick video. But really, it's super simple. I kind of think that most people would know how to do this, but then I have to remember there's a lot of young people that they just don't know the basic things like this. Like my son, he works in the store, and the people, you know, somebody was looking for some chocolate milk, and he told them, well, why don't you just make your own? And this was an older person that was probably old enough to be his mother, probably old as me, that had no idea how to make their own chocolate milk, and that surprised him. Well, cinnamon sugar is the same way, and I figure if there's people out there that don't know how to make their own chocolate milk, then there's probably people that don't know how to make their own cinnamon sugar for sprinkling on toast, adding to hot cereals, and things like that. Mr. Rain likes to use this when we have leftover white rice, and he likes to put it on the rice with some milk as a breakfast cereal. And so basically all you need is take a jar bigger than the jar you want to keep it in. So I would find a jar that's about twice this size. I'm going to use this much sugar. I'll fill this jar up to that much with the sugar. And here's the other thing, is you can make it organic by doing it this way too. And so I use like an organic evaporated cane sugar, or whatever your favorite sugar is. You can use coconut sugar. That's another good one, very high in minerals, which I use a lot of coconut sugar too because I really like it. I would say start with about a teaspoon per cup of sugar that you're going to use. A teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon powdered to each cup. I use about a tablespoon because we like lots of cinnamon. And so you're putting it in a bigger jar. You just add it all in there, shake it up really good, and then pour it into your smaller jar. That's the easiest way to blend it. And there you go, you've got your own cinnamon sugar. Okay, and you know, if you want to see how I do that with other things, I recommend checking out my seasoned salt video, one of the last ones I did, or even my mixed spice video. And you can see how I put all the stuff in there and mix it up. And there you go. That's an easy way to make your different blends when it comes to powders, sugars, salts, things like that. Okay, next is the cutting board. Now, my cutting board is, you can see it's kind of looking a little dry. It's looking a little worn. I use this one every day, and so it's time for me to put another good coat of coconut oil on it. So what I do is I like to get it nice and warm. So right now I do have a fire going that I'm going to let go out because it's beautiful out. This is that weird time of the year. Get the fire going early in the morning, take the chill off the house, let the fire go out. But anyway, I'll let this board get really warm, and then I'm going to rub some coconut oil in there and set it back by the fireplace, not on, but by. Let the coconut oil seep in, and then turn it over and do the same thing. Now, I do have a video that I go into more detail about that. I'll go ahead and link to up here if you'd like to check that out. That's how I take care of my cutting boards. And by the way, if you're new, Mr. Rain makes these cutting boards. He has a pig one too. It's his own design. A pig and a chicken. The chicken was my favorite. And, you know, because I have chickens and I love chickens. And anyway, we have these up on our store if you're interested. And then I'm going to make a batch of my Almond Joy chocolate with no sugar. So you might have seen my last video I did on a healthy homemade chocolate. I'll link to it right up here. So I've got all the ingredients out, the raisins, the coconut, the almonds, the sliced almonds, and the raw cacao. Organic. This is all organic stuff right here. So I can make a good healthy chocolate for us. This is one of my favorites. So the peppermint patty chocolate is pretty dang good. And then the other thing I want to do, maybe not today because it's a very, very busy day. I have several videos to shoot and I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to get to it, but I've got some flaxseed oil here I'm going to be using up. Now I made some flaxseed oil soap and was really happy with it. So I'm going to be making some more of that with this. Now, if you've seen my soap making videos, I'll go ahead and link to one of them right up here. I think I'll link to the colloidal silver soap one. When you are working with things like flaxseed and hemp seed oil, you're going to end up with a much softer soap. Even after it cures for a month, even 2 months, you're still going to find it's going to be softer than like your coconut or lard based soap. And so what I might do with this is add just a little bit of shea butter in it to help give it just a little more, make it a little bit more firm. However, I really don't mind it as is because I like, even though I make my own shampoo, sometimes I'll even just grab, if it's a good nourishing bar of soap like the flaxseed or hemp seed oil soap, then I will actually just use that directly on my hair to wash my hair with, and that's what I did today. And then to that, I'm going to be adding some nasturtium flowers, because nasturtium flowers are also really good for your skin and for your hair, and helping with hair growth. And I think I'm going to put a little clary sage essential oil in there and just see how it turns out. I don't know if I'll offer that one on my store, but I just wanted to share that with you, just some other things that you can experiment with when it comes to making soap. Okay, then the last thing I wanted to mention was, some of you might have seen my Italian sausage recipe for putting on pizza. Now, keep in mind, when I came up with it, I just made it up. I did not read anywhere a recipe on how to make sausage or what spices and stuff go in it. So I had several people get in that video and say that fennel is a common spice used in making Italian sausage. And when I got to thinking about it, I'm like, that just makes perfect sense. That sounds like that's the flavor that I've been missing from my Italian sausage. Even though it's turned out really good and I really like it, I am going to be trying that in my Italian sausage. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll link to it right up here, and then consider adding that fennel. I'm going to be making pizza next weekend, in fact, because we have another family get together, and I'll be trying the fennel in that Italian sausage. And that's made with beef, by the way. We don't use pork here. So beef, and you can also use elk, you can also use venison or any other kind of meat that you want. I even tried chicken. I wouldn't personally, in my personal opinion, I don't think I would, even though I love chicken, I just don't think I would care for chicken or turkey as much in that kind of thing. I tend to lean more towards the red meats when it comes to that. So just something to consider, and thanks to those who suggested it. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that video, and that maybe you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.